What's going on, everybody? I'm Jory Goodman of the Time Teller. Hope everyone had a blessed Thanksgiving. For all who celebrate, and you don't need to celebrate Thanksgiving to be thankful. So guys, I'm thankful for all of you, especially for getting me past 144,000 subscribers. Thank you guys, seriously, to each and every one of you. So today I have a box from the watchmaker Constellar, and yeah, that means it's time for another installment of Micro Brand Monday. It is 3:25 p.m. according to my Yema LED 1970s reissue. Special thanks to Yema for this watch. Stay tuned for this review. Let's get down to business. All right, guys, let's see what Constellar has in store for us today. Oh man, this is kind of like cork. Very, very cool. I like that texture, man. All right, here we go. All right, let's get you in focus, and we'll see what is here in this box. Let's get up close, actually. All right, guys, so I've taken the watch out of the box, and it is the Constellar Starseeker. Very interesting dial. That's the first thing I noticed, is actually the kind of sparkle coming from that dial. We're going to talk about the materials used for that dial in a moment, but you'll notice it's not ticking. What's going on? Let's see if we shake it a bit. Nope. Come on. Oh. What? Yo. This is... I had a Tim Allen moment. Guys, this has never happened in a Micro Brand Monday. The watch clasp... Wow. So the clasp stay just fell off while I was shaking this watch to get the movement going. Wow. Wow. That's kind of insane, actually. I've never had something like that happen. But again, guys, as I tell these watchmakers, I review the watch as it is sent to me. So yeah, I'm not holding anything back. That's a bummer. The clasp lock, the clasp stay, it has fallen off. So this is a media piece. This is being reviewed by us watch journalists, but yeah, that's kind of crazy that happened here. But the review must go on. So okay, I've moved the boxes away from the shot, and just in that little bit of motion, the second hand is moving, and you can see it's sweeping incredibly smooth across that very interesting dial, because this actually has a Swiss Solida SW200 automatic movement. I love to see that, and I'm actually very, very familiar with this movement. My Oris Big Chrono Pro Pilot has that movement, my Boulder Expeditions have that movement, and it goes on and on and on. We've all had watches with that movement. That Solida SW200, it's almost like the Swiss counterpart to like the Japanese Seiko Instruments NH35. They're both workhorse movements. They're both fairly prevalent when we look at these Micro Brand watches. Obviously, the Swiss Solida is a little bit more advanced when we're looking at the higher beat 28,800 BPH frequency, and but they both have obviously they're both automatic, but they both have hacking and hand wind, and they're both very accurate and reliable enough. But let's get up close and talk about the dial. Okie dokie, guys. So as we see that second hand kind of sweeping smoothly across there, I want to talk about this Stardust Porcelain Enamel Red dial. So this is porcelain, but they have some added stardust, some glitter, if you will, kind of sprinkled across that dial, and it definitely plays with the light very, very well. And what I will say is, although I'm not a very big fan of like meteorite dials, I think they're kind of just too busy and out there, I think this is actually pretty tastefully done. Like, it's definitely dynamic and interesting and unique, but it's not super off-putting. This is actually something I would wear, whereas most meteorite dials, I'm not into it. And as we can see, there is a 3 o'clock date window. Now, the edges of the date window seem to be very, very smooth. Everything is centered and aligned. Another thing I really like is, although this is not really what I would consider a dark dial, that dark date window, or I should say the dark date wheel, it is very, very tasteful, and it kind of just looks like it's supposed to be there, and it's not really an eyesore on that dial. So, you know, I like the stealthiness, the kind of understated look of a dark date wheel. I think more companies should take advantage of that. But everything looks pretty prim and proper when we're looking at this complication. Okie dokie, so I don't know if it would be a Time Teller Microbrand Monday review without arguing about the logo on the dial. So, Constellar. Interesting name. We can see the logo is maybe like a take on a constellation of sorts. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough about astrology. Anyway, I think it's tasteful enough on the dial. You know, Constellar is a long word, but it's not a ton of font or text on the top part of the dial. Let's go over towards the 6 o'clock and see what font is there. All right, and now we're kind of almost getting into specification territory because we can see it says water resistant, 200 meters or 660 feet. And that's right, this watch is a dive watch, and it does have a 200 meter water resistance rating. Now, again, I think when we're looking at dive watches, having this kind of font indicating that specification is pretty standard at this point. We're all very used to it, and I think the font they chose, very tasteful. So it is a sports watch. There is a bit more text on the dial than, say, you know, a dress watch would have, but I think it's all well and good. I don't think anything's super off-putting. One thing I will say is I am in love with those diamond indexes. Boy, they look amazing. I love that they're applied. I love the contrast between the very dynamic, kind of scattered, starry look of the dial and then the very sharp, clean, kind of sterile diamond indexes there. It's a very nice contrast, and yeah, I just love it. Okay, so we mentioned that it is a dive watch. We mentioned that water resistance rating. So let's go ahead and now check the crown setting and function, and maybe we'll go ahead and test that bezel actuation as well. So as we move on to the crown, we can see it is signed with that Constellar logo. We have very nice mirrored polish over on the sides of the case, almost like a slim lug design. We have some angled cuts here, kind of standard case shape without being a total Rolex homage here, so I really appreciate Constellar for doing something pretty unique. We have some integrated crown guards there, not super high, not super chunky. Everything is very sleek, nothing really big and blocky. I really do appreciate that. So let's go ahead. Yep, it is a threaded crown, very smooth when we're looking at unthreading it. Let's go ahead and thread it up though and see what it feels like. All right, love it. No complaints here. Very silky smooth crown inside. Now let's go ahead, check the crown setting and function. We already know the SW200 has hacking and hand wind, but just for the sake of the review, final position, the second hand has stopped. Let's go ahead and push it in. All right, it is moving once again. Okay, two very tactile and discernible clicks when we're talking about the crown setting and function. Obviously, the first setting, if I can get it there, 1 second. What's going on here? Very tight crown stem, man. Okay, we are in the final position. Okay, threading it up. First setting will be obviously the date. If we can focus in on there. There we go, the date is changing. And then the final position will obviously be the time. Perfect. Let's go ahead and move it to that very aesthetic time here. Oh yeah, everything. Symmetry is everything, guys. Symmetry is everything. That's why my beautiful face, so symmetrical and handsome. I make myself so depressed on this channel. All right, all jokes aside, guys, let's go ahead and test this diving bezel, also known as a timing bezel, because if we do want to use that extra attribute, I want to make sure that it's not sloppy, that there's no play in the bezel, and that there's a very true, tight ratcheting feel to it. So let's go ahead. Sounds good. Yeah, no real play. Very good. So if we were to line this up with that minute hand, tiny bit of play, not enough. You really have to yank on that thing. So yeah, looks good, feels good. No complaints there. Okie dokie, guys, so there's two things left to do. Number one, I want to test the lume because that's like my favorite thing ever to do. I'm a child and I love to shine a flashlight on a watch and see it glow. Again, that's Easily my favorite thing about these Micro Brand Monday episodes. But of course, we have to put it on the wrist and see how it feels. But before we do any of those things, we've got to break out the digital calipers and measure this watch, because it's kind of important, right? All right, 39.7 millimeters across. So that's excluding the crown guards or the crown. Lug to lug, very, very important. We're looking at 44.6 millimeters. Lug to lug, so well under 50 millimeters. I love that. 11.9 millimeters thick. It's pretty standard for an automatic dive watch. Alrighty, let's put it on the wrist and then we will test the lume. Okay, so here's the first thing I want to talk about. Yeah, clasp. There's a thing that's supposed to be here. That's broken. Huge bummer. All right, but let's talk about the watch on the wrist. All right, guys, here it is, the Constellar Starseeker on my 7.5-inch wrist. Again, the lugs do not encompass the entirety of my wrist. Feels good, looks good in my opinion. If you have wrists smaller than mine, I think you could pull this off. And if you have wrists a bit bigger than mine, I think this will be fine for you as well. So a very versatile sizing. I think it could accommodate a lot of different people. All right, guys, so before I go ahead and test the lume, I do want to share with you this engraving on the case back. We can see a scuba diver in the water, star seeking, stargazing. I guess he would be a Starseeker, right? That's the name of the watch. So very, very cool, kind of fun. I love to see all the different micro brands and how they decorate their watches. It's always very fun to see these engravings. So yeah, I like it. It's fun that it corresponds to the name of the watch. Not bad. I think it could be a bit more vibrant though. I'll say not the best, but definitely not the worst. And I do like that blue lume. Good job. Okie dokie, guys. So we've spent a few minutes with the Constellar Starseeker. What do I think? Well, let's do a quick rundown of the specs, yeah? 316L stainless steel, silky smooth threaded crown, hacking, hand wind, 200 meter water resistance rating, date complication, sapphire crystal, a very unique porcelain enamel red sparkly dial. You're getting applied indexes, a very functional ratcheting timing bezel. You're getting overall very sharp, good looks. A bit unique when we're looking at the indexes and the overall dial design. Nothing super out there. It's not like super duper, it's not like Zelos Abyss 2 territory, right? This is kind of an archetype of, or I should say it follows the archetype of a sports watch diver. But we got to factor all of this in against the price. So apparently, I think the early pricing is just under $400. Gato put up the price right here. I think it's like $389, I think. So that's not bad. If you're looking for, a very competent sports watch with a Swiss Solida movement and some kind of interesting looks, again, it's unique enough to be different, but it's not something crazy like, again, that Zelos Abyss 2. I think that's the most ridiculous watch I've ever reviewed here on this channel. But yeah, under $400, there are a bunch of divers to choose from. When I first saw this red, it reminded me of like that Orient Kamasu diver, so that's obviously a little bit less expensive than this. So you do have some more affordable options, but this is still, under $500. I think the early pricing, again, is under $400. So this is definitely an option there. What I will say, very disappointing for literally the first thing to happen in the review, to have this clasp stay to fall off, and I was literally shaking it to get the movement going. That was kind of, I don't know, huge bummer. But Constellar, overall, good job. Figure out your bracelets because that's kind of a bummer. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this new, or I should say, the most current installment of Micro Brand Monday. Again, we try to do this every single Monday. So special thanks to Constellar for sponsoring this episode and helping out the channel by sending us this watch to review. I'm going to be sending this probably back to Constellar first, and then they're probably going to send it to another reviewer. I would send this to another reviewer directly, but I don't want to do that with the clasp being all wonky. So yeah, guys, thank you so much. We can't do this content without the viewers. Again, thank you for 144,000 subscribers. Thank you to my channel members. We literally can't do a thing without them. Yeah, guys, I love you. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller. And always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.